How's everyone doing this evening? Hope everyone is well. We thank you for this opportunity to come out this evening. Tony Hair Ministries and the men in black, the gentlemen you see to my left and right. Just want to make a correction. I am not the pastor of the Love Center in Dunn, North Carolina. That would happen to be my father, who is Dr. W.J. Hare, who's standing out in the audience. I'd like to take the opportunity to welcome any dignitaries that are here and all those who have left work early to come. We want to thank you for coming out to share this candlelight vigil with us. We are here this evening to reflect and give honor to Dr. Martin Luther King. But before doing so, I am glad that Ms. Gordon and Dr. Lacey and the committee gave me the opportunity to speak tonight. Many years ago, I used to play right out here somewhere. My home, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and my father can correct me if I'm wrong, we're somewhere in close vicinity of the home we grew up here in Washington, on Washington Drive. So as a little boy running around here playing, I'm honored to have the opportunity tonight to stand before you and speak to you. We are here today to reflect and give honor to and celebrate a man who was called the moral leader of our nation, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Dr. King shared these memorable words with us. He said, "I have a dream that's deeply rooted in the American dream." He didn't say, "I had a dream." That would have been past tense. But Dr. King said, "I have a dream." This speaks to present tense. I have a dream implies the possession of. It's my dream. Dr. King lived in the reality of his dream by using the faculty of his imagination to indulge the experience. He invited America to dream with him and to join in the struggle for civil rights for the Negro. We are now living in the promised land of freedom and equality that he and many of our ancestors prayed for. They fought, they cried, and died pursuing. The question that stares us in the face today, as we look into the mirror of the struggle, is this: now what? We're free. Now what? We have equal rights. Now what? As we reflect on Dr. King and the quest for freedom and equality in America, I can hear the voices of those in the Montgomery bus boycott ask us, now what? I can hear the voices of those on the March on Washington asking you and I, now what? We're free. We have equality. Now what? I can still hear the voices of those who witnessed the assassination of Dr. King on the evening of April the 4th, 1968, as he left his hotel room in Memphis. Those voices are crying out to you and I, asking, now what? We're free. We have equality. Now what? Those who came before us, they paved the way for us to drink from fountains that don't say white only anymore. Now what? Those who came before us, they paved the way for us to go through the front door instead of going around the back. Now what? We have freedom. We have equality. We can exercise our civil rights. Now what? What do we do with the freedom that we have? They paid for us to move from the back of the bus to the front of the bus. Now what? They paid for us, the way for us to go through the front door, as I said, instead of the back door. Now what? What do you do with the freedom and equality that you have? What are you doing with the reality that is deeply rooted in the American reality? Are you living in the reality of the dream, or are you asleep at the wheel of responsibility? Are you awake, living in the freedom of having respect for yourself? Are you awake, living in the freedom of sharing our great history with your children? Are you awake, living in the freedom of respecting authority, teaching your children to respect authority? Are you awake? Are you living in the freedom of helping your children understand what others sacrificed in order for them to have? Our children can go to school and read now. Our children can ride the bus. There was a time when they couldn't do this. What are you doing with the freedom and equality that you have? Yes, Dr. King, he did his part. He played his role. But what are we going to do with that which he died for? Yes, I want to know, what are you doing with the freedom and equality that you have? Well, it's time for us to wake up and inject into the hearts and minds of our people the value of freedom and equality. It's time for us to wake up and inject into the hearts and minds of our people the responsibility of freedom and equality. It's time for you and I to wake up and inject into the hearts and minds of our people the courage of freedom, the progress of freedom. It's time for us to wake up and inject into the hearts and minds of our people the promise of freedom. You see, what we have to understand, that there's a price that comes with freedom. Freedom is not free. Being free in America means being married to the same responsibility that our ancestors displayed during a time when they weren't free. Being free in America means being married to the same responsibility that our ancestors were married to during a time when they were not considered equal. In spite of all that they went through, they still loved. In spite of all they went through, they still cared for. In spite of all that they went through, they fed. In spite of all that they went through, they raised and nurtured the children. They raised and nurtured the children who'd become the men who would pen these famous words. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men were created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Your ancestors, my ancestors, raised these men who wrote these words. And if they could do that then, what is going on now with us? Why can't we raise our children the way that our ancestors raised these men? Why can't we reach back and hold on to the promise that was put out before us? When we look at what's happening with the African American today, it has nothing to do with the obstacles outside of us. The biggest enemy that we fight each day, Dr. Lacey, is the man in the mirror. That's the biggest enemy that we fight. We must get the man in the mirror to understand that he has a responsibility, that there is a responsibility that comes with freedom, that there is a responsibility that comes with equality. So now what? We have freedom. We have equality. What are you doing with yours? What are you going to do with yours? Are you going to share with your children, your nephews, your nieces, those who are younger than you, what people went through for us to be able to do what we're doing today? This did not come at any cost. This came at a cost. The baton has been passed to you and I now. What are we going to do with the freedom and equality that we have? We're living in a day and time that it's not easy being you. But we're living in a day and time, and we serve a God who makes it able and possible for you to be you in your greatest light. So I encourage you tonight, as you leave here, take a good look at yourself in the mirror when you get home. Maybe when you get in your car, pull your visor down and look in the mirror and ask yourself, what are you doing with the freedom and equality that people died for, that people were beat for, that dogs were let go on, that water hoses were sprayed on? You see, we've forgotten all about the struggle. We've forgotten all about what we went through, what our ancestors went through. We've forgotten all about that there's still a day, there's still a generation, and that there's still a cause to fight for. There is so much ahead of each and every one of you tonight. If you would just take responsibility for the freedom and equality that people died for, that you and I might live, and that you and I might stand, and not just stand, but get up, and not just get up, but get up and move forward, fighting the good fight of faith. Thank you all for this opportunity.